Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're taking a heavily data-driven dive into what's honestly one of the most hyped and absolutely most misrepresented business models on the internet right now, dropshipping. Look, we've all seen the flashy claims and the lifestyle videos, but today, we're just pushing all that noise aside. We're going to look strictly at verified data to understand exactly why some people are pulling in massive profits in 2026, while others are barely breaking even. If you've been wondering how this landscape actually functions today, you are in the exact right place. Our North Star for this explainer is super simple. We're looking at real numbers from a verified analysis of over 1,200 actual dropshipping stores operating right now in 2026. So no screenshots from gurus trying to sell you a course here. We're going to see if dropshipping is actually worth your time, and if it is, how to start it correctly based on actual market realities. All right, let's dive into this. Here's our roadmap for today. First, a dropshipping reality check. Then we'll look at the verified earnings divide, followed by the true cost of entry. After that, we'll compare lottery players to real businesses. And finally, we'll break down an honest profit timeline. Okay, part one, the dropshipping reality check. Let's make sure we actually understand the core mechanics here. It really all comes down to this super straightforward three-step flow. Step one, a customer buys a product directly from you. Step two, your supplier ships that product directly to your customer. And step three, you keep the margin. That's the whole shebang. You never hold inventory, you never pack a single box yourself, and you don't deal with fulfillment. Your entire role is just connecting the product to the consumer. But what does that actually mean for your bottom line? Well, it means your realistic net margin after all your costs in 2026 sits right here, between 15% and 30%. Your profit is simply the difference between what the customer pays you and what you pay the supplier, minus your operational and advertising costs. Understanding this grounded 15 to 30% margin is actually our very first huge clue as to why earnings vary so wildly, which we'll see in just a sec. It's not 100% profit, right? It's a structured margin that requires real efficiency and volume to scale. Which brings us nicely to part two, the verified earnings divide. We're going to map out this massive spread. And wow, when you actually look at the data, the earnings spread is just staggering. This brilliantly illustrates exactly why earnings vary so much in this industry. So beginners are landing anywhere from absolutely $0 up to about $2,000 a month. In fact, most new dropshippers are nothing in their first 30 to 60 days because they're entirely in a testing and learning phase. Then you've got your intermediates. These are folks who found a few winning products, sitting comfortably between $2,000 and $10,000 a month. But then look at the advanced sellers. By utilizing data-driven decisions and proper scaling, they're pulling in anywhere from $10,000 to over $50,000 a month. So you really have to ask yourself, why do dropshipping earnings vary so wildly in 2026? I mean, how can two people start with the exact same business model and one makes zero while the other clears $50,000 a month? What are the hidden variables actually separating the beginners from the advanced operators? Let's uncover that in part three, the true cost of entry. It is definitely time to shatter the free-to-start myth. There's this pervasive myth online that dropshipping is completely free to start. It's not. The real investment required to properly test and scale in your first few months, before you even find what converts, is realistically between $1,000 and $3,000. If you go in expecting to spend zero, you're going to fail because you simply won't have the capital to actually test the market. Let's actually break down exactly where that money goes, because this is the honest picture most tutorials just completely skip over. You can launch a basic store for under $500. Your Shopify platform itself starts at an accessible $32 a month. But here is the kicker. You need a basic product testing budget of at least $300 to $500 for ads just to find a winning product. You aren't just buying ads, you're buying data. You're paying to find out what your customers actually want to click on instead of just guessing in the dark and crossing your fingers. This perfectly sets up part four, lottery players versus real businesses. This is where the behavioral divide really shows. Now, what's really interesting about this comparison is the mindset shift. On one side, we have the stores that fail because they treat dropshipping like a lottery. They just pick random products, throw up cheap ads, and rely on hope that something sells. This is a massive reason for that huge earnings gap we talked about earlier. But the operators who actually win in 2026, they treat this like a meticulous business. They research demand first. They focus heavily on niche authority and actively build relationships with suppliers. They methodically test their ad creatives. And instead of taking cash out immediately, they reinvest those profits to scale what works. They are obsessed with the customer experience, not just listing random junk. Let's look at the exact toolkit these successful businesses are actually using today. For the store platform, Shopify remains the heavy hitter. For product research, remember, they aren't guessing. They use tools like AutoDS and Sell the Trend to spot winning products before they peak. Now, for suppliers, this is absolutely crucial. AliExpress is still totally viable for initial testing, but advanced sellers quickly move to faster USA-based suppliers like Zendrop or Spocket. Why? Because it dramatically reduces shipping times and return rates, which directly boost your reviews and gets you those repeat customers. Using this exact optimized tool stack instead of relying on slow, outdated methods is a primary driver behind that massive gap in earnings. All right, let's wrap things up with part 5, the honest profit timeline, looking at the journey from day 1 to scaling. Let's set some realistic expectations here. In your first 30 to 60 days, expect $0 in earnings. This is your testing and learning phase. You're spending that initial capital we talked about earlier. By days 60 to 90, if you're validating products quickly and treating it like a real business, most operators will see their first profitable month. But notice, they are reinvesting those earnings right back into the business. Then, as we move into months 4 through 8 with proven products and highly optimized ads, clearing $7,000 to $15,000 a month becomes a very realistic target. This timeline proves that dropshipping is not some 30-day get-rich-quick method. It heavily rewards patience and rapid validation. And that brings us to the ultimate takeaway from this whole explainer. Profit now comes from strategy, not shortcuts. Dropshipping absolutely can still make you money in 2026, for sure. But the days of it being an easy money scheme, those are over. With rising ad costs, tougher competition, and those thinner 15 to 30% margins, the only way to survive and thrive is to out-strategize the beginners, who are still out there playing the lottery. Which leaves us with one final question for you to chew on as we wrap up today. Are you ready to stop playing the lottery and start treating this like a real business? The data is crystal clear on what separates the $0 earners from the $50,000 earners. It's all about your method, your investment, and your customer experience. Think about where your current approach falls on that spectrum and what you might need to change today. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and keep learning.